So yesterday, Monday, Diddy celebrated his 55th birthday, but this year was a lot different. It was no Diddy parties. It was none of that. None of that stuff. Well, happily so, I guess, right now. But anyway, so this is his first birthday behind bars. Yeah, but so there's still, I mean, it's crazy too because there's still more happening in court. Like, I mean, everything is still active even though we're not hearing about it as much anymore. And the people may be fatigued like we talked about prior to.
The buzz in the courtroom wasn't just ordinary chatter. It was a firestorm of tension so thick, it practically choked the air. People weren't whispering. They were vibrating with anticipation. And at the center of it all, Sean Diddy Combs, walking into that federal courthouse in Manhattan like a fallen god. Once hailed as hip-hop royalty, this wasn't the confident, diamond-draped mogul the world used to know. No, sir. What the world saw was a ghost of the man he used to be. Draped in a dull beige prison jumpsuit, his signature swagger dimmed by the gravity of it all. His steps were heavy, his gaze unflinching, and though he said nothing, that silence screamed volumes. This wasn't some tabloid spat. This was a reckoning decades in the making. And Diddy, gray hair, hollowed eyes and all, looked like he knew it.
That they will be adding 2 defense attorneys. We only thought initially it was 1, but one thing that stood out to me when Mark Agnifilo was talking about this was he said that these defense attorneys are in the courtroom right now. I didn't see Mark Garagos in that courtroom, but what I did see is 2 defense attorneys that have been there when Brian Steele came on board, and those 2 defense attorneys were Nicole Westmoreland.
Let's not sugarcoat it. These accusations didn't just send ripples through the entertainment world. They caused a damn earthquake. We're talking about serious, no-joke allegations, manipulation, coercion, and something prosecutors are calling orchestrated misconduct on a scale that feels like it's ripped straight from a horror movie script. Except this isn't fiction. Prosecutors painted a picture of something called freak-offs, and if that word alone gives you chills, it should. These weren't just wild parties. These were allegedly traps, staged and set, designed to keep people locked in fear, shame, and silence. Everyone in that courtroom felt it, that gnawing sense that the glitzy hip-hop world might have been hiding a much darker truth all along.
Or not really the judge. The government didn't go into too many details about the extent of the plea offer, but one thing that they had said was pretty much that under the plea offer, he would be facing less time than he's facing if he would have gone to trial. So when the allocution portion came, Diddy stood up. The judge kind of read him everything that he had needed to read to him, just about whether or not he was of sound mind, whether or not...
In the early court appearances, Diddy's family had shown up like soldiers. His mom, Janice, his kids, holding it down, standing tall, sending the silent message, "We're here, we believe him." But now, just days before the trial, crickets. Those benches once filled with quiet strength now sat empty. Was this strategic silence to avoid paparazzi mayhem? Or was it something worse, a fracture in the armor? Either way, when Diddy looked around and saw those empty seats, it had to sting. Still, on the surface, he was ice cold, no emotion, no flinch. But behind that poker face, a war was waging. And then came the biggest shocker of the day. Diddy rejected a plea deal. Yes, you read that right. He turned it down. The prosecution offered him a way out and he said no. Instead, he looked the judge dead in the eye and said, "Yes, I did." That's not just confidence. That's a declaration of war.
As far as the plea offer that came up in the last hearing where the government said we did offer him a deal or an offer, I should say, and that he rejected it. And now it's official and he said it to the court as well, too. You know, he stood up. He said that he consulted with this about his attorneys, and it seems like they're planning, or not even seems like they're rolling the dice by going.
Now let's talk defense. Leading the charge, Mark Agnifilo, not your average suit. This is the man who got Martin Shkreli and Nexium's Keith Raniere into court alive. His strategy? Bold. His vibe? Fearless. But even he looked like he had his work cut out for him. The government came armed to the teeth. Years of investigations, a mountain of receipts and witnesses ready to testify under real names. That's how real this is. These weren't anonymous tipsters hiding behind screens. These were people ready to face Diddy head on. And yet, Agnifilo had a play, one the public wasn't ready for. And he started hinting that all this was about consensual relationships. Swinger lifestyle, that's the phrase. A bold move that could either save Diddy or bury him deeper.
Jesse, we've been talking about this, just how confident the defense appears that, they could get off on these charges. They could be acquitted, or possibly, who knows what could happen, just because, again, you are rolling the dice. This really does feel like just kind of like, just kind of like a gambling a little bit with Diddy's life in a sense, just because, if you're offered maybe X amount of time versus this huge amount of time, which could.
In another twist, the judge ruled Diddy could wear his own clothes to court. Doesn't sound big? Think again. This wasn't about comfort, it was about image. A sharp, tailored suit can do a lot more than cover a body. It can paint a perception. The goal? Make the jury see Diddy as a businessman, a father, a philanthropist, not an inmate. Meanwhile, both sides were throwing jabs over a gag order violation. The prosecution claimed the media frenzy, especially that jaw-dropping documentary, was tipping the scales. No, the defense snapped back. You're the ones poisoning the public. Baby, the gloves were off and court hadn't even started yet.
Bars, you would think possibly, it's the federal government building a case against you. Maybe you would go for the lesser offer, but again, that would be having to admit that he had did something wrong. And the defense has always maintained that he is innocent. He has done nothing wrong, that this is just, these are just ex-girlfriends that are mad at, like just all these types of things that the defense is.
And as if things weren't spicy enough, whispers started swirling that new lawyers might be joining Diddy's dream team. Big names, big money, a whole new level of courtroom firepower. But it all comes back to the jury. And let's be honest, how do you find anyone who doesn't know Diddy? The man is practically pop culture royalty. Music, fashion, businesses, philanthropy. He's everywhere. So how on earth do you expect 12 people to walk in clean, unbiased, and unaffected? The judge's plan? Grill 50 potential jurors a day. But even then, will it be enough?
And the judge said that, he seemed to be taking this kind of matter seriously. Now, I will just kind of preface it and say it. I haven't seen the documentary, but it's not out of the realm, or it's not out of the norm that she even went on this documentary as well, too, because she had previously gone on another documentary and kind of talked about her client's accusations against Diddy as well, too. So I was surprised that they brought up this particular documentary. Again, I don't know the extent of what she had said, but the defense seemed very annoyed in a way.
As court wrapped up for the day, the tension was thick enough to slice with a knife. Every glance, every legal motion, every breath in that courtroom felt like a domino waiting to fall. And then it did. Suddenly, there were murmurs of chaos inside Diddy's own legal camp. Leaks suggested something was wrong. Arguments alternating with Herkin's strategy, disagreements, people second-guessing whether they even had a handle on this monster of a case. Were cracks starting to form inside Diddy's iron wall?
And so the judge, again, seemed to be taking that matter pretty seriously and just pretty much said that, everyone, the judge, the attorneys, the witnesses' attorneys, the accusers' attorneys, they all have to adhere to these professional rules. They all have to adhere to this professional conduct. And if this continues and if more things are said that get onto the judge's radar.
Let's talk about the prosecution's plan. These folks didn't just bring paper and pens, they brought an arsenal. Hours of video footage, phone call transcripts, bank records that allegedly show more than just bad math. But the real bombshell? Internal chats between Diddy's staff, casual convos about planning certain events, the ones central to the prosecution's whole argument. The kind of messages that suggest this wasn't just bad behavior, it was organized silence.
Well, first of all, I can only imagine how sloppy Sean Combs was with evidence when he got busted with those 2 machine guns or 3 machine guns with the altered serial numbers. So I really don't trust Sean Combs or the people around him's ability to properly cover up anything. So I envision that you're going to see a trial, payments from his Amex for flights for people, straight payments directly from his company to people.
And it gets worse. Prosecutors claim they have messages that predate the first raid. Yep, months before the heat came down, folks in Diddy's camp were already panicking, allegedly talking about keeping things hush-hush. One senior associate supposedly texted concerns about unwanted attention and offered solutions. But the kicker? These texts were deleted once news of the investigation broke. Suspicious, you think? Thankfully for the feds, digital forensics is a thing. Meanwhile, they couldn't recover everything. What they found might be enough to burn the whole operation to the ground. The defense says we're challenging the authenticity. But the prosecution, they're betting the jury will see right through it.
And then the time frame is important because this happened in hotels, in places that have surveillance, that there's records that could be consistent with his testimony about when he alleges that these parties took place. He probably has his own information about who attended the events. When you're somebody like Sean Combs and you're such a celebrity and you're engaged in this type of behavior, people around you are memorializing it.
Now let's talk about the people who know where the bodies are buried, the witnesses. Leaks suggest they've got an entire army lined up. Former employees, business insiders, even a few celeb names ready to testify on what they saw, what they heard, and what they were paid to keep quiet. Some are allegedly spilling the tea on hush payments and rewards meant to keep mouths shut and loyalty locked in. If they testify like insiders say they will, this won't just ruin Diddy, it'll drag down others too. A chain reaction of destruction. Think dominoes. One falls, they all fall. Now here's where things get extra messy. Insiders say Diddy's legal team isn't exactly on the same page. Some want to go nuclear, attack the witnesses, flip the script, fight dirty. Others, not so sure. They fear such tactics might make the jury hate their client even more. And let's not ignore the new lawyers being added to the mix. Is it a sign of strength or panic? Because adding more voices to a courtroom choir isn't always harmony. Sometimes it's chaos.
This is somebody that actually thought that he was above the law. So I can only, think that, he was sloppy in the way that he did these crimes, that there's probably a trail of evidence, not only involving him, but everybody in his circle that he would, delegate these responsibilities to.
Outside the courtroom, the war wages on. A media battle that's as vicious as the legal one. Diddy's PR machine is working overtime, promoting his charity work, his fatherhood, his music legacy, trying desperately to make him look human again. But against the ugly backdrop of court docs filled with sickening details, it's not working. Twitter's dragging him, Instagram's erupting, the hashtags are vicious. People don't want redemption stories, they want answers.
Wait a minute, say that again. Say that again, back up. You're saying that there's tapes and they're being shopped?
Yes, there have been people already shopping.
We've heard about the tapes, but
yes.
The shopping thing is
yes,
new.
there already have been tapes leaking around Hollywood, being shopped around to individuals in Hollywood. But one particular person contacted me to shop a particular video they were in possession of.
Meanwhile, the judge is not playing games. He shut down delay tactics. He refused to toss out evidence. He wants this case on the calendar and on time. The defense, they're running out of room to maneuver. And the jury selection, a nightmare. Diddy's team is digging deep. Background checks, social media sweeps, anything to find jurors who don't already think he's guilty. But in today's viral world, is that even possible?
It sounds like there was probably a lot of hidden cameras as well. Is that what is being talked about?
Yes, this was actually in his Atlanta home, at a home he had in Atlanta at one point. And it does seem that the person isn't like looking into the video, so it's, to me, doesn't seem like that person knows they're being videotaped. It doesn't seem like they're active participant in the videotape.
And now, the emotional gut punch. We're not just watching a mogul on trial. We're watching a man unravel. Friends say he's aged dramatically. That old twinkle in his eye, gone. The Diddy who used to dominate award shows and red carpets is now a shadow, quiet, heavy, the one that built an empire from scratch. It shows up in a courtroom smirk, a perfectly timed retort, a silent challenge in his eyes, but will that fire be enough to survive what's coming? Final words, this trial isn't just about one man. It's about everything he built, everyone who stood beside him, and everything that could crumble if this case goes south. As the evidence stacks and the courtroom braces, we're left with one chilling question. Are we truly ready to hear the whole truth? All right, that's it for now. Let us know what you think in the comments. Is Diddy doomed, or does his defense have one final trick up their sleeve?